With us at Horizon Weekly today, this May 9 in Montreal, is director of Armenia's official 2023 submission to the Academy Awards for the film Aurora Sunrise, film director Inna Sahakyan. Welcome to Horizon Weekly and welcome to Montreal, Inna. So happy to have you here.
Thanks for inviting to Horizon. I am very happy to be in Montreal, where the film is opening night film of Sommets Cinéma d'Animation Festival in here.
More than a year ago, I had the privilege to be one of the first people to watch Aurora Sunrise. The film was a revelation among the selection process of Annecy's festival.
It's a very, very nice surprise. I'm very happy that an Armenian film is opening up this animation festival tonight.
Tonight, I am happy to welcome you and your film in my hometown in Montreal. This screening means a lot in this city and in this cinematheque.
Մեր մանկությունը երջանիկ էր ու քույներով լեցուն։ Մենք ընտանիքով շատ ժամանակ կանցնեինք միասին։
Inna, talk to us a little bit about the history of Aurora Sunrise and the character, Aurora Arshaluys Mardiganian. Tell us about her and tell us about, as a documentary filmmaker, why Aurora? Why her story?
You know, we all grow up hearing genocide stories, but usually when we hear genocide stories, they are coming from victims' perspectives, and we rarely hear female stories. So I was really surprised to discover Aurora Mardiganian's story in Zorian Institute Oral History. We were doing another project with Zorian Institute, and they suggested me to look over Aurora Mardiganian testimony, which I did not know that they had in their archives. And while I knew Aurora from Ravished Armenia book, I did not know all her Hollywood story details. And then I saw a woman talking about genocide in the first ever Hollywood production about Armenian genocide in 1919. And it was amazing to see how this young girl not only survived, but also relieved and sacrificed her own pain in order to help her nation, and did so much for Armenians. Like she helped so many other orphans with her this action. And we Armenians even did not know much about her story. And this was the trigger for me and for our team at the Bars Media Documentary Film Studio, when we discussed and we realized that this story should be told, and should be told in a way that it will be interesting not only to Armenian audience.
The film is about the Armenian Genocide, and it follows a young person, Aurora. You'll see her incredible adventure in the US. As Marcel said, the film has animation in it, it has documentary, but it's also a cinematic film, because you will see in it some excerpts of the remaining parts of the film that was made with the character of Aurora.
Sooner or later, all you're gonna die. There will be no one single Armenian to leave.
On a tour right now at the Armenian school here, Surp Hagop, you mentioned an interesting point, that you compare Aurora Mardiganian's story to the very known Anne Frank, who survived the Holocaust.
I was struck with words of Anne Frank, who was saying that whatever is done cannot be undone, but one can prevent from happening it again. We all know Anne Frank's story. She gave voice to Holocaust. But almost none of us know about another teenage girl who passed through horrors of Armenian genocide and survived to tell the story to the world.
Of course, their destinies are very different, but they both survived very horrific events, lived through very horrific events in their lives. And while Aurora survived, she also continued her mission to help others.
So Aurora was a survivor of the horrific 1915 genocidal events by the Ottoman Empire. Now she got to New York, and please correct me if I'm wrong. How did she end up getting Hollywood's interest in 1919 to make a movie? How did that happen? A silent film. What can you tell us about that?
Aurora survived like the worst. I mean, Aurora was from the most vulnerable groups of the during the genocide. Being a teenage girl, beautiful girl, you survive through unbelievable horrors. You know, like all her family was murdered, and she escaped several times from slavery, and she reached New York.
Հայ բարձրաստիճան զինվորականները պիտի գազմագերբեին Ամերիկա հասնելս։ Իմ մատքս էր աշխարհին պատմել մեզի հանդեպ կատարվածի մասին։
Ասա հիմացել բիլիրանենք Նորվեգիա, ցեզ մավիթ վրա բիլիտնենք, տկենք ցեզ Ամերիկա։
When Aurora reached to New York, she basically was proposed by Near East Relief Foundation to become face of the campaign campaign to support Armenian orphans, and in the frame of this campaign, her story was published in newspapers.
You cannot possibly imagine how important your story is.
And after the book was published and it was bestseller book, Near East Relief start to work with basically Hollywood. They suggested Aurora to act herself. They tried several other actresses, and the director was not happy. And they suggested her to act as herself. To relieve her pain, and she agreed. And I think it's a very heroic act. It's act of sacrifice. And she agreed because she understood that the film will bring a lot of revenue. It will raise the Near East Relief's campaign funds, and all the money will be addressed to build orphanages all over the world.
What campaign was this?
Drive $30 million to help the Armenian refugees that will escape here and there, have no food, no shelter, nothing.
Why animation, and how many years did it take you to do this film?
So here our team brainstormed, and we come to the idea of using animation. We had really great examples of animated documentaries, especially on heavy topics, because animation is a very unique tool to cover stories that have like graphical elements that are about traumas, and it's first of all it's distant a bit the audience from the horrors on the screen, but at the same time it gives freedom to imagination, and not only imagination of the viewer but also of the creative team. So it was a very unique tool for us, which gave us opportunity to use symbols, colors, I even say smells and sounds in a way that only animation can do. I think this particular genre, animated documentaries, is taking its own special space in the film industry. And I think after the couple of minutes, people understand the language and they diving into the film.
Inna, as a documentary filmmaker, historical artifacts are very important and crucial for the making of a film. We can talk about from characters to clothes to scents to furniture to anything. To my understanding, you actually had a Turkish team that helped you, that worked with you on this film to recreate Aurora's story. Tell us about that.
For me as a documentary filmmaker, it's very important to keep the truth as much as possible. So we did huge research before starting the production, historical research of artifacts, of the traditions, of costumes. We also kept Western Armenian as a main language of the film, and a special Turkish dialect of Ottoman Empire for the Turkish part. So we tried to be as close to the reality as possible of the time.
Savaş bize yaklaştı. Şehirde Ermeniler için tehlikeliymiş. Buradan yayılalım.
Ben kaçmam.
Evden çıkıp acil.
We cooperated with local Turkish filmmakers whom I meet during one of the international European workshop. Really great, open-minded team. I won't mention the names. And they traveled to village of Aurora, and not only like that specific village, but all surrounding. They filmed and sent us reference footages. But they also basically passed through the routes that Aurora passed.
Inna, when you started this film, which you said was about 7-8 years ago, I don't think that anyone could have assumed the situation that our country, Armenia, is facing today. 2020 war, Armenia is in turmoil. As a woman director and as an important story to tell, how does this make you feel that this film comes out at a time when this is happening inside Armenia?
We're in the middle of the most active phase of production when war in 2020 started. And we totally stopped the whole production. Most of men of our studio went to the front line either by as soldiers or as frontline filmmakers. And at that point, I was not sure like why we are making this, why we are continuing to work on something historical, that something happened 100 years ago when we have the situation right now. It's sad, but one of our production assistants was killed during the war, and sadly nothing changed. This is the heaviest part, when you realize that you are making historical film about events that were 100 years ago, and we want to have role model and we want to learn from the past, but the world is not learning from the past.
Sadly, today, even though the story of this film happened 100 years ago, sadly today the world still faces wars and genocide. Ukraine, Syria, and it's very heavy for me to say, but even today's Armenia is still in the war condition. A small part of our homeland, Artsakh, is in blockade for more than 5 months already, and people there, 120,000 Armenians, are facing ethnic cleansing danger every moment.
What is the importance that you do for a non-Armenian audience? I would like to hear you say that.
Yes, that was from very beginning the main important mission for all our team, to make a film that will speak to non-Armenian audience, because we know our pain. We need to speak about it in a language that affects others also. I really think that Aurora's story is special in this matter, because she's great protagonist. She's very touching and strong and emotional, and her story is unbelievable. really did some research and tried to basically package the film in a way that it will speak to international audience.
Ես ընդամենը 17 տարեկան էի, երբ հոլիվուդյան աստղ դարձած էի, բայց դերասան չէի գրծած դառնալ։ Ես դեռ չէի խաղար։ Ես կվերապրեի։